An incredible sight. A 19th century church appears to just rise right out of the water in the middle of a lake there. It's the first time that it's been fully exposed in more than 40 years. In this week's It's Not Too Late, our Ginger Zee traveled to Mexico and reveals why this stunning spectacle is a sign of climate change.
I'm Ginger Zee, and it's not too late. Welcome to central Mexico and Lake Parisma. There used to be a village that stood here. It was called Zangaro. Now, that village was submerged when they built a dam. And since then, there's been a horrible drought developing, and this gorgeous, historic church has been revealing itself.
This is Virgin de los Dolores, a 19th century Catholic sanctuary that was forced to take a decades-long slumber beneath the water.
It was not easy for the people who lived through this. In 1979, Mexico's president made a decision to build the dam and the whole community disappeared. There's still some people that tell us about experiences that they have lived that happened in the church because they were baptized or received a religious ceremony. It is an important symbol within the culture here in Guanajuato.
It really is unbelievable to imagine water covering that church, but it did for 30 years. It wasn't until 10 years ago that this beloved church started making regular appearances in the dry season. And not until last year, when the water level was so low that people could actually walk through the church on the ground for the first time in more than 4 decades. ¿A dónde estaba el nivel del agua?
You can use that mural as a point of reference. About 3/4 of it, about 4 or 5 meters high, but like I mentioned, about 7 or 8 years ago, the water levels started to decline, but especially in the last 3 years. We were all very worried, especially those who lived in these communities because they make their livelihood off of fishing. They live off of agriculture, they produce corn, beans, sorgo, and other basic produce.
When Dulce was talking about this church and how people still remember taking communion here and how symbolic it is when it starts to rise from the depths of the water, it's symbolic for them both in a religious way but also in a warning way. For the rest of us, it should be too. We have a major drought situation all throughout North America.
Mexico City is going through a truly severe crisis around water, and I mean, quite honestly, I'm very worried about it. It's still amazing to look at how, this is like a considerable size reservoir. You look at it and it's pretty big. It's at about 40% capacity right now. So it's less than half of the water that it had only a few years ago. And I don't know, for me at least, it gives a sense of just how quickly these droughts can just cut our water supply in half.
Many reservoirs in Mexico are at their lowest historic points. Here you can see clearly where the high water would be. The tree line there represents it, and just how far this lake is away. And it's not just here in Mexico. In the western United States, we're at the point where developing what could be the worst drought in more than 1,000 years.
It should be a huge warning for us in Mexico first, but I think the western United States, we're the same geographic space. What's happening here is happening there.
A brand new drought update shows that nearly half of our nation is in drought right now. A quarter of Americans are in extreme or even exceptional drought. But you don't have to look at maps to see it. In Northern California, the super bloom showed up in lake beds where water is supposed to be. Governor Newsom declaring 41 counties a drought emergency while standing in the center of a lake that should be full of water.
We are advancing a drought emergency.
There's that giant fish kill in the Klamath River. People there prepping for water shortages. And in the most recent Palisades fire,
being pushed by strong winds, bone-dry brush, and vegetation that has not burned in years. This whole area is a tinderbox.
And check out these powerful before and afters. Lake Mead and Lake Powell, the source of drinking water for 40 million people, shrinking. And yes, of course, drought has been happening since the beginning of time, but not at this rate. It's been amplified by climate change.
Today, the drought that we're experiencing is partly bad luck, but it's also partly because of human-caused warming. And because of those warmer temperatures, this drought that would just be kind of bad is instead mega drought bad.
A new study shows that aerosols from cars and power plants are making droughts worse. Back here in Mexico, a new report of their own shows that more than half of the country's irrigated crops are at risk of being lost thanks to water shortages.
I see a lot of times grown in Mexico, so it will immediately affect us in food alone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so much of the fruits and vegetables that are consumed in the U.S. come from Mexico. You need water to grow food. And, you know, we feed the U.S. largely, but, you know, if our crops fail, yeah, of course it's going to affect you in the United States. It'll affect you in the cost of food and in the availability of food and in the migration problems. And it's unimaginable what life becomes like when you run out of water until you do, or until you see it. No, it's a very abstract idea until you literally open the tap and there's no water, and you look around and there's no water around, and you can't do anything. You can't flush the toilet. You can't do anything. Yeah. You know? Schools close because they don't have water. And once that happens, like the level of desperation in a community is enormous, no? And so, yeah, water starts becoming like gold, and this is already happening.
Enrique runs a water reclamation organization in Mexico City. They help underserved communities always have water.
Water shortages in Mexico City or water shutoffs in Mexico City, yeah, sometimes the last 2 weeks, no? Wow. And you'll have, you know, Mexico City, as I said, 22 million people. So if you're harvesting rainwater, you have much greater resilience.
What does it mean to somebody in Nevada?
You know, I don't know, but I think that Mexico and the U.S. are such sibling nations, no? Like, we have such a shared history. This is the same crisis, no? And we're the same piece of earth, and we're going through the same thing, no? And as I said before, hopefully together we'll come out of this.
A reminder that our water, much like this sanctuary from the deep, is holy. We need to conserve it, because I promise, it's not too late.
A reminder that so many of us take water for granted. Our thanks to our friend Ginger Zee for that.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.